you're not successful unless you have this big house. I still was listening to a lot of music, but I was more of a video game person. Everybody wanted to be Jay-Z. She was very hard on me. Impress other people who are broke. I'm still evolving.
Talk about being separated from your dad at a young age.
I believe in something called processes.
Being introverted felt like something that you were taught.
I haven't done enough. I'm not doing enough. Some of our greatest leaders were hated. And you gotta realize that you're still on the mission. You still have a purpose.
Where you were,
Where you are.
where you are, where you were, and where you're going.
Yeah.
I'm free, I'm free. Won't let the enemy get the best of me. And I'll be what you created me. This is my destiny.
Welcome to Purpose Over Everything podcast. I am your host, Q, and we have another amazing episode for you guys. Listen, you already know, if you've been watching my podcast, you know that I do not introduce my guests. So today, I am going to allow my guest to introduce himself. And let me tell you real quick, like, I don't like introducing my guests because a lot of times people just don't know how to introduce themselves or how to kind of like say nice things about themselves. So I use this platform for it to happen. So I want you to introduce yourself to the people today.
Sure thing. Hello, world. My name is Rasul. I'm an engineer. I'm a producer. I'm an artist. I'm a student of life. I am a brother. I am an uncle. And I'm a husband. I'm just a student of life.
So if you had to explain what a student of life is, what would you say?
Someone who just goes through life and they learn from their mistakes. Like, they're not, you're a little ignorant because, you move through life without knowing your direction at all times. And so me just being a student of life is just learning from my mistakes and just keep moving forward, like not folding under any type of pressure.
What's a mistake that you've made in life that you learned from?
So many, but one lesson I've definitely had to learn is nobody's coming to save me.
Bro, it's too early for this.
Yeah, I'm 32. I think most of us, when we turn 30, especially as men, it comes a point in time where we come to a halt and we gotta take a step back and evaluate everything, like where we are, where we were, and where we're going. And sometimes you just gotta you get that initial shock. Like sometimes maybe your parents are like, okay, man, you know you're grown, right? Like you gotta do these things, you gotta learn these things, you gotta take your lumps on your own. And sometimes you come to a realization like, oh man, like I'm really like by myself. Like I'm not a kid anymore. I can't just make silly mistakes and think that my parents are they're always gonna have your best interests, and the people around you are always gonna have your best interests. But at the end of the day, everybody has their own trials and tribulations that they're going through. They can only help you but so much. And it is really up to us, especially like once you hit your 30s, and to start working on your finances, working on, just being in the right space in the right time, and know how to maneuver in the right situations. So that's just one of them things I went through a couple of years ago. Like I guess you could call it a mini like midlife crisis, man. Like
Midlife crisis.
It's like what is my purpose? What am I doing here? Like and where's my ceiling? Like, so
Wow.
these are the things that I've been thinking about for like the last couple of years, like evaluating my friendships, evaluating how I've treated people, how people treated me. And, you come to some harsh realizations that there's certain things that has to change. And, it's kind of sad to think about, but, it's just a part of life. Like sometimes you just gonna have to let people go out of your life. You got to give up certain habits if you want to like evolve and move forward.
Yo, bro, you literally hitting a lot right now. You hit like a lot of targets. But in the beginning, I like what you said. You said that you wanted to know where you were going, where you were going, and it was three. You said where you were,
Where you are.
where you are, where you were, and where you're going.
Yeah.
So I want to start there. I want to start from the genesis of Rasul.
Wow.
I want to go all the way back, and we're going to use that as framework to really have this conversation. So where were you before? Let's go back to the beginning for you.
Yeah, well, in the beginning, there was Marcus Rena and Verna Andrews, which
Okay.
are my parents.
Okay.
Gave birth to me March 2nd, 92 in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I grew up in Bed-Stuy.
Okay.
Then I moved to Queens when I was about 8.
Okay.
Did time out there in Far Rockaway, Queens.
Okay.
Then eventually moved to North Carolina.
Those are three major places. So now you transitioned, you started off in Bed-Stuy, went to Queens, then went to North Carolina. So tell me a little bit about your Bed-Stuy and Queens experiences growing up.
Just looking back now, it's very reminiscent and nostalgic. I grew up on Van Buren Street.
Okay, I know where that's
in
where that's
Bed-Stuy,
at.
between Tompkins and Troop.
Okay.
And
Like over there by like LG in that area, Lafayette Gardens. Like,
around there, yeah.
Okay.
Around
Okay.
there, Marcy.
Okay, Marcy. Okay.
Yeah. And really so I go by Rasul, right? That's my
Okay.
middle name, Aleem Rasul Rena.
Okay.
And I got my start in music when I was about 7 years old.
Okay. So wait. So this is Bed-Stuy. This is Queens.
This is between Bed-Stuy and Queens.
Okay.
My father, he makes music.
Okay.
He produces, he raps, he DJs, and he's been doing that since about the 80s, man. He's a Renaissance man. He was a boxer.
Okay.
And he's a DJ. He rap, And so one day there was a talent show, and my dad performed a song with another lady and her daughter. And I believe, I want to say my older brother was there as well. It's called A Baby's Here Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember that. It
Okay.
was from so long ago. But yeah, so we ended up getting in second place
Wow.
in the talent show.
Wow.
And I thought it was so cool, man. Like, I was very nervous. The lights was on me, but, only thing I had to say was the hook. But
Do you remember the hook?
It was just like, a baby's here tomorrow, a baby's here tomorrow, a baby's here tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
And like, then they just came in on their verses and started rapping. And it was very cool, man.
So at 7 years old, you're on the stage and you are performing this a baby's here tomorrow song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's happening in your 7-year-old mind as you continue to repeat that hook over and over again?
I was nervous, man. I never was like a public speaker. I never felt like I had, like, even when I was younger, I was nominated to do certain things, like say certain speeches because I wrote pretty good. But like, as far as like being on stage and being in front of everybody, I was always nervous about that.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know, man. I think naturally I'm just introverted. I'm to myself. And so that wasn't part of my personality at that time.
Okay.
That was something I had to learn and develop over time.
Okay, so you performing and you guys getting second place, did that build your confidence or anything at all?
We was happy. It was a great time. I was very shocked, but after that, I was happy and I was looking forward to doing more music.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in Bed-Stuy, 7 years old. You perform second place with your father and a few other people. Now, what did you start doing with music after that moment, that experience?
That's when I realized how much I really like music. I got into Ja Rule, DMX,
Murder Inc.
Yeah.
Okay.
DMX, Nas,
Okay.
Jay-Z. You know the New York starter package. Yeah, the starter kit. So I started listening to a lot more hip hop music, being around my father. And my father, he had a lot of studio equipment in his house that he used to stay in Queens. And they used to call me Buttons because I always used to press buttons, man. Like, I mess up I'll mess up something when I go in that room, and my father, he just used to have to always keep an eye on me, and they just started nicknaming me Buttons. But it's just kind of funny because those moments kind of led me to like how I am now, like because now I got a studio room full of like studio equipment, and I just even just thinking about it now, it's like wow, like that really is like the origin of who Rasul is.
Mm.
Yeah.
So now when you moved to Queens,
Mm-hmm.
what happened? Did you continue to pursue music, listen to hip hop? Like,
Of course.
what was that transition like? Because
Of
now you're going from
course.
Brooklyn to Queens, far Rockaway.
Right. It was a good childhood. Like between 8 and 11, it was a great childhood. Just like any other kid, I had, a couple bullies, a couple fights, crushes. The typical, like, I had a very interesting childhood. I still was listening to a lot of music, but I was more of a video game person when I moved around there. I was, like I said, I was introverted. I had a best friend named Chris who was an extrovert. So,
Okay.
Something about introverts, like we do kind of gravitate towards extroverts because deep down inside we do like, a little, we do want to be a little bit raunchy or, a little bit, we do want a little bit of attention. It's just that we don't know how to really get it. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's not natural for
Right,
you.
right,
Oh,
right.
that's wow. So, okay. Wow. So we got 8 to 11, and now you moved to North Carolina?
Yep.
So hold on. Fast pace, hip hop music, talent shows with your dad's studio, Queens, Brooklyn, and now you just speeches, and now you up and go to North Carolina. Why did you move to North Carolina?
Because it was too expensive. My mom and my stepfather, they said it was just a lot more land for your buck, so to speak.
Did that do anything for you? Like, did that, like, mentally or emotionally, did it shift you in any type of way?
Well, when I was actually kind of happy, I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
I knew that I was ready for a change. Like
At 11?
at 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kids are very in tune with their feelings. It's just that parents don't really know because they don't ask or But I was ready to go, and my dad, he actually put out a court order against against my mom to like have me go out there because he didn't he claimed that he didn't know what was happening. It was just happening so fast. So the judge asked me, did I actually want to move out there? And I told the judge, yeah, I wanted to try it. And he just was like, as long as you want to do it, that's fine. And so, yeah, we ended up.
That moment, you didn't think like, man, I'm going to miss my dad. I'm going to miss my family.
Of course. I mean, yeah, I did. But it was to my understanding that I was going to be coming back and forth like at least twice a year, half the summer and then either like Thanksgiving break or Christmas break. So, yeah.
So you was okay with that. Okay, so now you move into North Carolina. You say goodbye to the fast life and you go into a more slower pace life. What happens now as an 11-year-old child? Tell me about the first time you landed in North Carolina and you walked into your new place. What's going on in your head?
Well, we didn't necessarily move into our new place until like maybe 6 to 8 months after we got there because the house was still being built. We moved into a community, a HOA community. Down south has a lot of communities. It has a lot of suburbs, a lot of open space, a lot of country, and that was new for us. But in the meantime, we moved to my godmother's house.
Okay, so
her name was Pam, and we stayed there until the house was built.
So what's happening now? You're at Pam's house, new space, new environment. What's going on?
Trying to find myself, my identity, just like any other kid. Like I was trying to find my style. I was known as the kid from New York.
What does that mean?
Because like when when people move to a different region, it's almost like you're foreign to
Mm.
like people down south. They wasn't used to hearing like a New York accent, so people used to call me New York or Brooklyn. Yeah, I just had a little. People used to just know me from being from New York, and you know, every beginning of school year, I come back to school with something fly because New York, around that time when we was growing up, that's like the fashion capital, man. Like
Yeah.
New York get the New York and Cali and just those major cities, they get the fashion first,
Mm.
and then everybody else gets it.
Yeah.
So
I remember back in those days, like in North Carolina, the pants was like extra baggy, the shirts was extra big. I think y'all was
yeah,
walking around with like slippers and no socks.
yeah. I think I was probably the first one that introduced you to the slides with the socks.
Yo, I thought that was the craziest thing ever to walk around
Yeah.
with socks and slippers on. When it came to finding your identity, so now you're in North Carolina for how long?
From 11 till 19.
Okay, so from 11 to 19, what are you doing to find your place into this new state?
Well, I mean, I'm growing up. At around 12, you start getting more into girls and stuff. So, just dating, going to school, still making music. I'm writing music.
Oh, so music has never left.
Never
Because I know you
left.
said you was doing
No.
video games and stuff
I was
like
doing
that.
video games, but I was also writing lyrics in my little composition book. It had a whole bunch of little crazy
Let's go.
curses
You bringing it
and-
back. You bringing it back. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, okay, so your music never left you. You said you got the composition book out.
Mhm.
12 years old, you still writing, are you like trying to figure out ways to record yourself? Are you want to like producing,
Yeah.
making music? Were you like rapping in front of people? What was going on at that time?
Well, I'll just say at 12 years old, 50 Cent was my favorite rapper. I used to listen to Get Rich or Die Trying. And it was to the point, I'm sure I was kind of making my mom uncomfortable. Because she bought the album, but I was like playing it on repeat, especially in the car. And I'm like 12,
With
she
the
don't
curses?
yeah, explicit version. She don't, but, she didn't really say nothing, surprisingly.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Parents probably usually would be like, turn that off, the cursing and all that stuff.
That'd be a little hypocritical because she curses.
Hold on, that's a whole thing real quick. Hold up, before we continue.
Not to kick up no dust.
Wait, before we continue real quick. Why do parents tell their children to not do things that they do?
I don't know. I'll figure it out once I become a parent. But
What do you think? If you had to make a guess, what would you say?
our parents didn't know. Our parents didn't know. They thought they was doing the right thing, and they was doing the right thing. But it's like they don't understand. Like children, they mirror their parents. That's their first influence before they go out into the world. But yeah, I'm really not sure like why that happens. I feel like parents, they have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to raise children, and that's a huge responsibility, especially while you're still living life for yourself. They didn't always have the answers. They just did what they thought was best, and that's just probably what it was. They didn't want us to because once you start cursing, then you start getting in trouble in school. It could start getting in fights. You get suspended. So I understand why that was even done. Like why she was don't do as I say and not as I do. Is because you just gotta watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is dumb.
Yeah.
I think that as a parent, you have to be very careful of the things that you do because your
Intentional.
children will follow you.
Yeah.
You can tell your children all you want not to do stuff, but they will do it. Now, I can say a little disclaimer. My mom used to say, don't do what I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she used to say to me and my sister, the things that I'm doing, you shouldn't do it. Now, I was the type of child, if my mom told me something was hot, I'm not touching it.
Mm-hmm.
But my sister, on the other hand, she was a little bit more risky.
Yeah.
She was more of a daredevil, right? So I felt like for her, even though my mom might say don't do it, there's a possibility that she still might do it.
Yeah.
So I also think that it's important for us to know our children and to know, how to address each person because it may be a little different. I also believe that sometimes children do need to experience it in order for them to know that it's not something that they need to do.
And that's the person I was as well. I mean, yeah. I would say I was somewhat rebellious.
So were you the person that did what your parents did, or were you the person who said, you know what, you said you was rebellious, so I don't think you kind of did what they did. Or talk to me about that.
Right. Like, here's an example. Has your mom, when you was growing up, has she told you to save your money and watch how you spend your money, and you should, be more, financially responsible? And I was told that as well, but that was just something that I had to learn on my own. Like, I got my first job, and then my mom would tell me, put, $50 to the side. You just never know when you may need this money for a rainy day. But, I
You went crazy.
White Castles.
You went
You
went crazy.
Filling up my car to drive all over the place.
Uh-huh.
And next thing you know, here comes the little overdraft.
Man, listen.
The little overdraft slips coming in the mail, and then my mom, she'll open up my mail and then just leave it there for me to see.
Did you learn from it, or you still kept going?
Nah, I kept going. Like,
Let's talk about that too. Like,
okay,
what causes people to keep going once you realize that it's wrong?
systematic. Most of the time, when you don't have a whole lot, when you make money, when you start to make a little money, you just want to spend because you're not used to having. And I feel like once you have had enough is when that changes for you.
Wow.
I had to go through countless amount of, shoes and clothes, overdrafts, being stuck on the side of the road.
My.
You got to go through enough things for you to be like, all right, this is what my parents was talking about, and why I need to kind of take a step back and take my finances more serious.
I mean, and that's like life, right? You have so many opportunities to do the right thing as we grow up, but we literally choose not to do the right thing, and then we have to learn the hard way.
Yep.
That is
life is
whew.
Life is your biggest teacher. It's your greatest teacher.
So from 11 to 19, you're in North Carolina. You finding yourself. You're doing your music thing. Did any type of light bulb come where you finally arrived and found yourself between those times?
Yeah. We used to do freestyles in like 10th and 11th grade in the auditorium while I was in high school, and I used to kind of prep my lyrics because I did. You don't want to be called out and you're not ready. And around that time, I started doing little songs here and there with my little headset mic. It wasn't even like a real studio setup. You know the vibes, man.
Of course I know.
Like the setup was crazy. Just a little game headset with the little talk piece right here. We downloaded the Audacity software, and I had the audacity to think it was gonna come out. But back in the day, we thought we was killing it.
I remember.
We thought the mixes were crisp, and
Yo.
But at that was like those are happy times though. Like when you like first start getting into who you think you are, and you find something that you fall in love with, it's like such a great feeling coming out the gate.
I'm gonna ask you a deep question, but I'm gonna save it for a little bit later.
Okay.
So when you started freestyling, did people actually like your stuff?
Some people did. At the time, there was guys who was a little bit more popping, but I did my thing. I held my own. I was never known as like the trash dude. I always had something to say.
So now you're about 16, 17, 18 doing the music thing. Are you saying to yourself, this is going to be my life, this is my purpose, I'm going to be a
I thought
famous
so.
rapper?
I thought I was, yeah. Man, at that time, everybody wanted to be Jay-Z. Literally, like Jay-Z was the blueprint, so to speak.
That's funny.
He was the epiphany of what success as a young black rapper looked like. But honestly, I wasn't ready.
Talk to me about that now. you wasn't ready to be Jay-Z. Talk to me about
ready,
that.
man.
Why?
Because I didn't sacrifice. I didn't invest in what I should have invested in as a teenager. I could have saved up some of that Taco Bell money I was using to get a little microphone. I bought my first cell phone with my own money at 13. I could have bought a microphone.
Why didn't you think like that? If you were so passionate about this?
That's a good question. I wasn't sure of myself yet. I just knew I liked music, and I knew that I was kind of good at poetry as well. Because I started off, and I think most artists start off doing poetry.
Yep, that was me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I back in 8th grade, I did this fire poetry. It was a little love poem that I did, and the teacher said it was so good that I should say, that I should rehearse it and do the poem at a show, which I ended up doing, and I did okay. But I didn't hone down like I probably should have. I wasn't ready. I thought I was fire, and maybe I was okay back then, but like on the grand scheme of things, when we look at artists at 12, 13, like you had Bow Wow rapping at 6, and he was amazing. I think he was rapping at like 4 with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like there was, even though we thought we was hot fire, there was other people who was really taking it to the next level.
So what would have been your definition of being ready at that age?
Having money for like I said, the money for a mic, putting money for studio time, just kind of putting my name out there more. Like I didn't branch beyond high school, like beyond my high school. I didn't like go to I didn't mix and mingle with other high schools around the area to kind of push my name out there when I was a teenager.
So what made you not sure about yourself? So it seems like at this point you're in North Carolina, like a nice house because it was built from scratch. You got your stepdad, you have your mom, you are finding yourself, you're freestyling, you're rapping, you're doing all of these things, but you're still saying something internally is still not strong. What was that?
I'm not sure. I just don't believe I had at that time the dog in me, the it factor.
So what's the opposite of the it factor?
Shy, reserved. Like,
so being
people had to
introverted.
pull me out. They had to say he raps. Like, I wasn't the one that say, yo, I rap. You know what I'm saying? The music and stuff would start flowing. People start rapping. I should have been the one running in the circle, like, first. It wasn't like that. It was like, yo, but, he raps over there, my boy over there, he raps. And, and it put me in the spotlight, and I wasn't always as prepared as I would like to be. And then that's what made me realize is, like, I just need to work more on it, and I wasn't ready to be at that status. So I just kept practicing.
And
I kept it to myself after a while.
So was being an introvert a weakness?
It was.
Is being an introvert a weakness?
Yes and no.
Talk to me.
Because, I just figured that introverts kind of get the short end of the stick sometimes because you tend to be a closed mouth, so you're not being fed what you need to be fed. You're not asking questions. You're not putting yourself out there, so people aren't really noticing you as much as you like. And then you sit around like, dang, why nobody notice me? So, that's a weakness of being an introvert. But a strength is you get to be observant of everyone else around you and take notes. You get to see who's just running their mouth, because whoever got the loudest bark got the weakest bite in a lot of situations. So being an introvert, it definitely has its advantages. Like I said, you get to kind of watch people's habits, study humans themselves, and then you're able to kind of make a calculated judgment about, or a calculated statement versus being extroverted and you're just running your mouth, and you might say something to the wrong person, or you might talk yourself into a situation you can't get yourself out of. And I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen with extroverts, but I also seen extroverts get themselves out of trouble, talking themselves out
because of their personality.
Right, because of their personality. And that's one thing I really respected about extroverts. They was just like, F it. We just going to, this is just how I feel. And I started to take that on as I got older.
So is being an introvert natural, or is it something learned?
Honestly, dang, this is going to get deep. I think it's something that's...
I told you I was going to go deep. This is the deep
I think it's something that's learned, man, because kids aren't introverts. Like, we don't grow up being shy, being timid. That doesn't happen. We all have our own minds, our own identity, our own DNA construct. And so I think life kind of, whether it's your parents and your society kind of molding you into this person, fold your hands on the desk, be quiet. They put you in timeout for talking too much. And I was one of those kids. I used to climb trees. I did a lot of crazy stuff as a kid at the same time, but I got in so much trouble that
it silenced you.
Yeah, I feel like it silenced me in a sense. And I love my mama to death, man. But she was very hard on me, and I feel like that also had a toll on how I represented myself in public, as far as being extroverted, being outspoken, the highlighter of the crowd. I do feel like that's a learned thing. And it's not just from parents. It could be from anything. Like,
like you said.
Bad experiences.
Even the school system, it seems like. Because you saying they make you got to sit down at this desk. You have to be quiet for this amount of time. You can't, if anybody gets up or does anything crazy, or not crazy, but just something that's out of the norm, is like, what are you doing, right? Like, it's people are being silenced. Oh man, this is deep. So from this being a learned behavior, how about your dad? How about your stepdad? How about other people? I know you spoke about your mom. How about, were there other people in your life that was trying to teach you how to be extroverted, or to pull out that other side of you that you knew you had?
My pops. And I didn't see it back then.
Talk about it.
We adults. And like I said, this is I'm not trying to really rub nobody the wrong way, but we focus too much on monetary things. Like, if you're not shelling out a certain amount of money, you're not doing the best that you can. And that was always a thing back and forth that it wasn't the best situation, and she did the best she was doing what she thought was right at the moment. But everybody have their beliefs about what could have been and what didn't have to be. But one thing I could tell you is that my dad, he spoke a lot of life into me, but I didn't pay attention to that until I was older.
Why didn't you pay attention to it? What did speaking life to you or in you look like? What was it? How did that look?
Telling me that now my mom, she gave me compliments and stuff, but I feel like I needed a cheerleader, and at that time, and just growing up, just looking back now, I didn't appreciate my dad being that cheerleader.
Dad being a cheerleader, did it look different? Did it look more manly? Was it more disciplinarian?
Both. It was teaching me how to box. and when to box. Like it's not, you're not supposed to learn how to box just so you could go around bullying people. It's more of a discipline and a last line of defense. And so stuff like that, just teaching me about common sense and just apply. I still apply a lot of those things that he told me back in the day to this day. Like, you know, to be aware is to be alive. He always used to say that. He just kind of held me up and held our, you know, siblings up in a way that I didn't really
appreciate.
I didn't appreciate because, like I said, sometimes adults, they focus more on monetary things versus what are you
actually doing.
Right.
So wait, I want to get really clear on this.
Mm-hmm.
So if a person may not be feeding you financially, you're not looking at what the person may be pouring into you emotionally, spiritually, mentally.
Exactly.
So just because a person might not be giving you money, now the money makes you seem like because this person is not giving me the money or because this person might not be feeding me financially, nothing else matters. But it seems like you're saying that we're taught to think money driven.
Yes.
And where does that come from? Where does that idea or strategy, where does that come from, thinking from a money-only perspective?
I think we were all, as a people, taught that by media, movies.
Talk about it.
They tell us, you know, you're not successful unless you have this big house. You're not successful unless you drive this nice car, got these nice clothes. You know, the ads, the commercials. When you see the amount of money that goes into these ads, especially like around the time of the Super Bowl, it's kind of crazy. Like everything revolves around you spending so you can impress other people who are broke. I mean, most of the time, people who got the money, who got the clothes on and stuff, they usually be broke. We just buying that because it's a shell of ourselves. Like it's just a shell of our trauma that's hiding underneath the clothes and underneath the jewelry.
Wow.
So I just think it comes from that, like, because it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that. Once upon a time, we believed more in family. We believed more in keeping everybody together because we had no other choice. But now that we got this illusion of freedom, we shop. And we think that in order to be in the club, and I mean in the club of like good graces of other people, you have to fit the look. So I just think we was all taught wrong. And our grandparents and the people before us, our ancestors, they knew the way. Because they stayed, the family stayed together. Just think about the families that nowadays is everybody's fighting over two things: money, well, mostly money. People is mostly fighting over money.
Wow.
And
also it's like pride. You know, it's pride is all these different emotions that happens as well. I really, this is super powerful what you're saying, because I think that subconsciously, even me growing up, I kind of thought more money-driven, clothes-driven. I had to have the nice stuff. I had to have the Jordans. I had to have this.
Yep.
I had to go certain places. Like and I don't think it's our parents' fault, because I feel like they was also manipulated by these things as well. So as a parent, how in the world are you really going to teach us certain things if you're being manipulated and don't realize you're being manipulated?
To this day.
So your dad was pouring into you, but you wasn't really paying attention to it or
It was like,
it was like whatever type thing. Where's my money?
I heard this. Talk is cheap.
Right.
That was my attitude and my approach to it, and you know, it just wasn't right, man. It wasn't right. Now, don't get me wrong. You do have to, you know, monetary is.
You gotta provide, because you
provide
need
the world.
But it's not everything.
It's not everything.
Right. It's not like.
While I was, you know, miscalculating that.
at 18, 17, 16, what could someone have told you to change that mindset to make you appreciate the things outside of money? What could somebody have come and said to you, like, Rasul, I don't know, just tell you something that would have made you click and be like, oh, okay, I don't have to only think about money.
Do you love yourself? Love yourself. No, just knowing who you are, knowing your character. Like, money isn't always everything. It's like you kind of know that, but I needed somebody to like exemplify that though. If somebody would have exemplified that to me, I think I would have probably had a better understanding of people's situations.
Bro, I feel like that's like a huge percentage of America. I feel like that's also the reason why there's a lot of broken homes. There's a lot of dads that's not in the picture. There's a lot of moms who are angry and upset and just frustrated all the time. Like, because of this idea of the world being so money driven, it is causing a lot of people to internally die. And I feel like that is super, super scary.
Yeah.
Whew. So you are 19 years old. Remember, we basically just broke down your whole genesis. We talked about where you were. Now, I want to keep going with that because I feel like it's important. At 19 now, you said you was in North Carolina from 11 to 19. What happened at 19? Where did you go?
Uncle Sam took me in. I joined the military.
Uncles.
He said, "Come with me."
So, wow. And so at 19 now, talk to me about that. How did you get introduced to the military?
All right, boom. So I graduated high school, 18 years old. A lot of people I know was going off to college to live on the dorms and, out of state or in state. People was just doing different things, and I didn't necessarily know exactly what I wanted to do with myself. I just knew that my parents wanted me to continue my education. Like all parents say, go to school, get your education, get a good job, boom.
Monetary again. Monetary mindset.
Man, monetary mindset. I went to Wake Tech Community College in Raleigh, North Carolina, when I graduated in 2010. Went for a year, did open general because I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. And around that time, I wanted to do different things. I was, just like anybody trying to figure out, like, maybe I like this, maybe I like that. So I kind of, this was around the time when, when Obama was in office, I kind of started picking up on politics a little bit more around that time. At one time, I thought I was going to be a politician. Just being so blissfully ignorant, just not knowing what it all comes with. But yeah, I thought I was going to be, something like that. Even there's so many things I wanted to be, man. It's kind of funny just thinking about it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So when it comes to the military, what happened? So now we know that you went to college for about a year, but then how did the military come about?
Because I had a little hoopty. I had a 95 Nissan Sentra. All throughout high school, I would drive it from my junior year to 19. And I always used to have an episode where it broke down. I always had to pay, unless it was like a ridiculous bill, but if it was small, like $250, $400, I had to pay out of my pocket. I'm just a teenager. I don't have that much money, So and then jobs at the time wasn't really hiring. I was working at the Gap. I did other little jobs. It was kind of temporary, but the stuff that I really wanted to do at the time, they just wasn't hiring nobody. So I was a broke college student with a hoopty that broke down on me every 3 months or so. Everybody kind of left town as far as like my peers to go to school and do this, that, and the third. And I thought about joining the Army when I was in my junior year in high school, and I was like, nah. But after just being in that situation at 19, I just knew it was time for a change. Like, I wanted to travel. I wanted to get new experiences. I wanted money, like more monetary. I wanted money, so I went and I applied to go to the Air Force.
You got in.
Yeah,
How
and I
long you was
got
in the
in.
military?
I was in the military for 7 years.
Wow. Thank you for your service, man.
Oh, thank you. It's nothing, man.
So, what happened to the music? Because
Music got lost in translation.
why the music? Because like you were so passionate from 7 all the way to maybe what 17, 10 years of loving music and writing and doing poetry and all of these things. What happened? Where did the music go?
I was still involved in it. My first year, maybe 5 months into the military, when I graduated out of basic, I went to do my training in Mississippi. I started doing music again. Like I started writing more. So it was always there. It's like I said, I was just shy about it. You know, you couldn't tell that I was really doing music. I was just a quiet dude going about my way. But I was always writing, man. I was always writing. My ear was always glued to the radio. Like I was still there. I just wasn't putting myself out there.
It seems like you was running away from purpose.
I was running away from purpose.
Because you was chasing monetary gain. So
yeah. You see what money does to us, man?
Man, so it seems as if music was always this thing that you was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But you always put the thing that you were supposed to do in the back for what you felt like you had to do.
Right.
Because what you had to do was going to get you the monetary gain that you needed to live life.
Right. It made it seem like, and I mean, in a sense, it's true. Like, you don't just come in doing music making money at all. It takes a very, 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 very long time. And because of the way I grew up, I didn't have no time. Like I said, like I wanted to make money, and I wanted to know what it felt like to like have $1,000. And I experienced that when I went to the military. When I first came out of basic training, I had $1,800. I didn't know what to. I thought I was rich. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Dang. So money took your passion away.
Money took my passion away.
Now,
for the moment, yeah.
If you would have put the 10 years into music, like what do you think would have happened?
Man,
probably wouldn't be talking to me.
Shoot. And everybody in our family knows that we're like two peas in the pod, man. Mm-hmm. You definitely would have been there with me, man. That was all we used to talk about. You know, hey, Diddy, I got a call from Diddy. Let me call you back. You know, we used to play around like that. Like,
what I don't know what Diddy we was talking about. But anyway, I'm sorry. But yeah, we used to use him as a reference.
Right.
We didn't know better.
Right.
Just joking, y'all. So I'm just thinking about all of the people in this world who are chasing money over purpose.
That's 95% of people. The other 3 are in the process of doing it, and they're trying, and then the other 2 already made it.
All right, you're in the military, 7 years in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about that experience.
It was bittersweet. I went to a lot of places that I never would have went if I didn't go, which opened my eyes to a lot of different things or different aspects of life. You meet so many different people. You think when you're in your same area, you think there's only a certain type of person, two, 3, 4 certain types of people, because that's what you're naturally surrounded by until you actually travel abroad, and that you meet people who've never seen a black person until they got in the military.
Oh my gosh.
Which is crazy to think about. Like, what you mean you never seen a black person? We're everywhere.
Wow.
But they only seen us on TV or from afar, you know?
Wow.
There's people literally in the military they say, I've never lived in a town with black people. Interesting.
Very interesting. Wow. So is that considered the sweet part? Or the bitter part?
That's the interesting part. It's the sweet part. You go places, you do things, you know. You have to make when you travel abroad, you kind of make it you should make it your objective to ask questions about people's backgrounds and cultures because that's how I learned to learn about life because people was asking me questions
Mm.
like when they see a black man from America anywhere in African nations, Asian countries, wherever you go, they have specific questions for you.
Like what? Give me an example of a question.
Do cops really do that stuff to y'all?
Mm.
Like, is it really as bad as they make it seem? Have you had any relatives who've been through slavery? It's a lot.
Wow.
It,
Did you know yourself at this point to be able to
I was
operate?
I was discovering myself. At the time when I was in the military, I was young. I was gaining confidence in myself. I've always struggled with my identity, but being out there and just it kind of molded me into the base level of my artistry. It kind of set me up
Mm.
to evolve into my next stage.
Mm. Let's talk about it because, man, your life is very interesting,
You know,
and it's a lot of. There's so much that I'm hearing in your story, and it's inspiring because there's a lot. There's a lot of different scenarios that it seem like you experienced that a lot of people are experiencing. Like we could talk about blended family. We could talk about
hmm
being separated from your dad at a young age and not
hmm
physically having him there consistently. We can talk about being an introvert. We can talk about the lack of confidence that you had within yourself. We can talk about all of the different transitions that you had to experience from Bed-Stuy to Queens to North Carolina to Air Force, right? Like, and a person who had this musical or has this musical ability, but at the same time, because of monetary and because of the other things that you prioritized, it wasn't as important, right? Like all of these different things can either build a person or break a person.
hmm
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it seemed like it built you. So I want to know, where are you now currently, mentally, emotionally, physically? Like, where are you at now?
I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm in a decent space in my life.
What makes it decent?
Well, first of all, I have a beautiful wife.
Okay.
Shout out to Kivane.
Hey, girl, look at the
Hey,
podcast.
babe. I have a beautiful home that we work very hard to obtain. I have my necessities met on the basic level. I'm doing great.
Hmm.
Everybody from the outside could look at me and be like, "What's wrong with him? He has a nice car. He has a nice house. He's married. Like family loves him. A few friends, few good
Mm-hmm.
friends. Like what more could you want?" And it's like the personal side of my life though is not exactly currently where I would have liked it to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm doing music. I'm active. I'm actively mixing music. I'm engineering music. I'm producing, and I just starting at writing because I do feel like I have a lot of stuff to say. But I feel like just time speeding everything up and just the economy and everything. It kind of forces me to lock in more on just keeping my head above water versus personally stepping into my element of what I was meant to be. And don't get me wrong, I have a plan. Like I'm a stepping stool type of person. I use things to get to the next level. Like I've used the Air Force to help me to learn how to navigate through the workforce, to be able to say yes sir, no sir, to be attentive, attention to detail, and all of that. And and currently I'm in school learning cybersecurity, and I'm going to use that to fund my business,
Hmm.
to fund my music production company called Music Manifest. I believe in something called processes. And, everybody has their way of looking at how a process should be. And I know me and you have talked about this and, behind the scenes, and there were certain things that you don't really agree with. And I understand too, because I see how things are and how they could be kind of strengthened, like, re-strategized, so to speak. So yeah, I would say I'm okay. I'm doing good. I'm blessed, but I could be doing more.
Before we close out this podcast, let me tell you what I see. I see a 7-year-old hungry, passionate, purposeful person who went through life accomplishing everything that the system says needed to be accomplished. Everything.
The system and my parents.
And your parents.
Society.
Everything, society, you have checked off on the society success. When it comes to your monetary gain, when it comes to being able to have some money and to do these things, right? But now at 32, I still see that 7-year-old passionate person still chasing purpose.
Yes.
And I believe, and my prayer is that even with all of the stuff that you have accomplished, and you have accomplished a lot, I still believe that something that you need to find is purpose.
Absolutely.
And I believe that when you find purpose, when you go back to that child mind state, to that hunger that you had, that passion, that love, that thing that, because it seemed like music made you extroverted. And
yeah.
you said that being introverted felt like something that you were taught, which means that naturally you were extroverted in your music element. So when you say, I feel like I'm not in my element, I believe that may mean that you're not doing music in the capacity that 7-year-old performing on a stage wanted to do.
Back in 2017 and 18 was like I think those years defined at the time what I was supposed to be doing. Because this was around the time when I've officially put myself out there, like Rasul the artist, music videos, interviews, performances. Like
And how did you feel?
I felt
those 2 years?
Amazing, bro. Like I found out I wasn't so introverted. Like I'm standing on top of tables performing, bro. Like I'm doing crazy stuff. I had people buying merch. I had a I had a glimpse of what
your element looks like, what purpose looks like for you.
And even 2021 when I opened up Music Manifest, and I made my first sale, like not just like a regular beat sale, but I'm talking about I had I did personalized beats for people. Like they'll tell me exactly what they want, and I make it for them. Sometimes they'll even be on with me as I'm doing it, as I'm going through the creative process. And it showed me what I was supposed to be, where it could have been. And my aura has changed around that time. And, one thing, the biggest thing about me that I know I have to work on is consistency.
That's everybody, bro.
Consistency, man, because when the ball is rolling and everything is good. But, one thing about business that they don't tell you about, or maybe they do tell you about it, but it's just something you have to kind of go through, is that you're going to have your dry spells. You're going to have your rejections. And I do feel like at that time when everything was going and everything was great, then it stopped kind of being so great, like, reaching out to so many people at certain times throughout the day, and it kind of got exhausting, but, the bills still had to be paid. The
money again.
Everything,
Wow.
Yes, things still had to get done, and it kind of diverted me off of that path from being on it all the time to kind of just,
Mm.
you know, I'm back in it. And I'm like, oh, but I got to do this, and I'm like,
Mm.
so consistency is definitely important, and the belief of self, man, the
Whew.
belief of self.
Oh, this is so good, bro. This is so good.
And I'm an open book, man. Like
I
I
appreciate that.
could talk my stuff, but I could also show you, like, man, I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable as heck, man. Like,
Yeah, and I really want to first of all just say I respect your vulnerability, man,
thank
because
you.
a lot of men, it's hard for us to be vulnerable. It's hard for us to express ourselves, and it's hard for us to allow people to see the process that we're going through.
All right.
Sometimes we want to just show them the end result, and we don't want to show them what's happening in between. And I think that the fact that you are showing us that means that we get a chance to continue to see you on your journey
Of
as you
course.
elevate into your element to a whole nother level. And we don't want to discredit the fact that you are successful. You have done a lot of amazing things.
Sometimes I had to remind myself, man. Everybody has to remind me.
Yeah.
Everybody, because I go so hard on myself. I'm like, yo, I haven't done enough. I'm not doing enough. But they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Like,
you've done a lot.
yeah,
And there's just more. That's
it is
really what it
more.
is. You
Yeah,
know what I
we go
mean?
through we go through so many rebrands in our life.
Of
Like,
course.
like some people are one way. They was running the streets in their 20s. And by the time they're in their 30s and 40s, they're preachers and community activists.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Joe Budden. He
Mm-hmm.
was an artist.
Yep.
The music industry didn't work out so much for him, not because of talent, because he was extremely talented, one of the best lyricists alive today.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it just wasn't a calling for him, and he found it in podcasting. So it's just, I understand that I'm still evolving.
Mm.
Like, I know it's not the end of the road for me, like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, I still got a lot of energy in me. I still got a lot of fight in me. Sometimes I get knocked down and I gotta catch my breath, but I'm still here, man.
And you get right back up. So if you had to give advice to that 10-year-old Rasul, what would you tell him? I want you to look at the camera and I want you to talk to that 10-year-old.
Rasul, Aline Rasul Reina. You are intelligent. You are a leader, and you just gotta be fearless.
Mm.
You can't care what, cause people are always gonna talk about you. People are always gonna judge you, criticize you. You could save a cat from a burning building, and they gonna find something to say about you. So just do what it is that you love, regardless of what anybody say, because the older you get, you're gonna realize that some of our greatest leaders are hated,
Mm.
and everybody's trying to figure it out. Everybody doesn't always have the answers. Everybody's trying to figure it out, and it's your job and it's your duty and your mission to figure it out as well. And don't be the biggest thing I would say to myself: don't be afraid to fail. Even to this day, like, I do not like failure. Like, I got a certification that I'm studying for within IT that I'm running from. I'm studying, but I'm still running from it at the same time. And it's like, bro, you could take the test over. Like, I'm in a program where I could take the test over and over and over. Like, don't be afraid. Fail forward.
Bro, man, thank you. Thank
Somebody
you.
cutting onions in here?
Man, listen, I truly appreciate you, bro. I really, really appreciate you, man. And I hope I could get you back on here again, because I believe that there's somebody watching us right now that's like, yo, I am in his situation. I've been in his situation, or I gave up because I was in his situation.
And if you are in that situation, man, don't give up. Don't give up. As long as your heart is still beating and you're able to you don't even have to. There's people who can't even walk. They're still doing what it is they want to do. Have you seen people without legs and they're doing pull-ups? They're doing they're playing sports. Some people are driving. Like, I look at these people, and I'm over here having a pity party about myself, and there's people who are less able physically, and they're doing more than me. Like, as far as within their life, conquering, their challenges. So don't give up. I'm going through it. Everybody's going through it, and you're going to continue to go through it. The only thing is, you get better at handling the situations that's thrown at you, and that's one thing I learned in the military: resiliency. When you're away from your family, when you miss all the big events, you miss your people growing up, your people getting old. It's a humbling experience, and it kind of brings you back down. It keeps you grounded, and you gotta realize that you're still on the mission. You still have a purpose, no matter what.
Well, this is the best way to close it out. Rasul, I just want to pray for you real fast before we close out. This was so powerful.
Let's do it.
Father God, I thank you. I thank you for Aleem, Rasul, Rena. I thank you for allowing him to be on this platform with us today. Lord, I just want to pray for him. I want to ask that you strengthen him. I pray that everything that he has dreamed, everything that he has dreamt, that you allow it to come to life. I pray that you continue to build him up internally, that you help him emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, that you are oh so present in his life. Don't allow him to leave this earth full, but allow him to leave this earth empty, where he has accomplished everything that he needed to accomplish. He has fulfilled his purpose totally, and he is able to now look back and say that I did it. So I pray against fear. I pray against failure. I pray against discouragement, the lack of confidence, insecurity, doubt, anything that may prevent him from drawing closer to his purpose. I pray that it doesn't take over him. So I thank you and I love you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I'm free. I'm free. Won't let the enemy get the best of me. And I'll be what you created me. This is my destiny.